Customer berated me daily for not sending her refrigerator manual fast enough. I fixed that. Back in the early aughts, I worked at Home Depot as a department manager, primarily selling appliances. I was young, eager, idealistic, genuinely wanted to help people. Getting me to volunteer was almost as easy as getting me to smile. Etc., etc. It was a decent job that taught me a lot of great lessons about how cheap and entitled some people can be, but this story is about the moment it taught me the most important lesson of all: the customer is always right. We were doing a model shift on the floor, so next year's models had come in and the current floor models got marked down to sell. Floor models don't come with the original packaging or manuals, because those got tossed weeks or months earlier since there's no back of the store to store them in. That's why they're marked down. Everyone understands this. So I've got a Maytag refrigerator on the floor. IRC, it was a bottom freezer, marked down to a price I thought was more than reasonable. An older woman, probably in her 60s, so born during the Depression, solidly pre-boomer, comes in and wants to buy it. Great. We get it all squared away, and as we're wrapping up, she asks, "Can I get the manual for it?" I said, "We don't have the original manual anymore, but I'll tell you what. I'll call Maytag directly and have them mail you one." They're always happy to do that. I'd done this plenty of times before. She said, "Great, perfect, thank you." Refrigerator goes home with her that day. Before end of day, I'm on the phone with Maytag. They said no problem, they'd get a manual in the mail to her. Done. I didn't think about it again. 2 days later, and I want to stress, barely 2 days, not even a full 48 hours, I get a call from the customer service desk, and it's her. No preamble, no pleasantries. "Where's my manual?" I blinked. It took me a second to even process the question, because it had been 2 days. Not even. I said, "Ma'am, it's only been 2 days. They're mailing it from Iowa. It'll probably be a week or two." She launched into a 30 to 60-second tirade about how we were all liars and cheaters, how dare we promise something and not deliver, the whole thing. I assured her and reassured her it was coming, and we hung up. The next day, she called again. Same thing. "Where's my manual? Why isn't it here yet? Why are you trying to cheat me?" I was incredulous. I explained, again, how the postal service works. She didn't care. The next day, she called again. I was starting to get angry now, but I kept it professional. "Ma'am, I have personally confirmed with Maytag that your manual is on its way. These things take time." Day 4. Consecutive days. When customer service transferred the call, I $$ing lost it. Internally. Externally, I said, still very politely, "Ma'am, you are absolutely right, and I am going to make sure I make this right for you." Now, between her purchase and this point, I had already called Maytag twice. Once the day she bought it, and once more just to confirm it was on its way. So she was already getting 2 manuals. But that clearly wasn't enough. This woman needed her manual, and I was going to make sure she got it. I started calling Maytag twice a day. Every single day I worked. Each time, I'd politely request that they send a manual to her address. A fresh request. Every call. Eventually, one of the Maytag reps said, "Hey, man, we've got about 10 or 15 requests in the system for this address. Are you sure?" I said yes. Absolutely. The customer needs her manual. Please send another one. To their eternal credit, they did. God bless whoever was working that phone line at Maytag, God bless them, and may the light forever shine on their life, because they never questioned it again. I want to be clear about my level of commitment. I came in on my day off to make the call. I'd worked S80/Sun and had MON/TUE off, but since Maytag's office was closed on the weekend, I was not going to let a non-business day cost this woman a single manual she was owed. I drove to the store specifically to call and ensure we held up our side of the bargain. This went on for just about 2 weeks. And then, finally, the day I'd been waiting and praying for arrived. She called. She sounded very confused. She told me she'd received 6 or 7 manuals at that point, and they were still coming. One arrived one day, then another the next, then 3 showed up the day after that. She didn't understand why she was getting so many. "Oh my goodness, ma'am," I told her. "Really? I am so sorry for the inconvenience." I just wanted to make absolutely sure she got her manual after all. She'd been very clear about how important it was. My MIL decided my lactose intolerance is a phase I made up to avoid her cooking. I've been lactose intolerant my entire adult life. Not severely, I won't die, but I'll spend the next 6 hours feeling absolutely miserable and I genuinely cannot function. I've managed it fine for years. I just read labels, ask at restaurants, keep my own stuff at home. It's not dramatic, it's just a thing I deal with. My husband's mom has known this since we started dating 4 years ago. She's never once commented on it. I thought we were fine. Last month we went over for Sunday dinner and she made this big creamy pasta thing. I asked quietly, just between us, if there was any way she had a portion without the sauce, or if there was something else I could eat. Very calm, very polite. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, I think you can handle a little cheese, you always make such a big deal out of nothing." I was so caught off guard I just kind of stared at her. My husband stepped in and said he'd grab something on the way home for me, and honestly I was fine with that. I wasn't trying to start anything. But then she announced to the whole table that I was refusing her food and asked everyone if they thought that was rude. His aunt, his cousin, his dad, all just sitting there watching. I said very quietly that I wasn't refusing anything, I just can't eat dairy, and she said, "Well, my son eats everything I make just fine, which like okay? He's not the one who gets sick?" We left early. She texted my husband later saying I had embarrassed her in her own home. He was supportive, but I could tell he didn't fully know how to handle it, and that part honestly stung more than what she did. The thing that gets me is she's never been outright mean before. This came out of nowhere and now I'm wondering what else she's been thinking this whole time and just not saying. A dad at the shelter tried to surprise his kid with my foster cat and now I'm apparently the villain. I foster cats for a local rescue, and once a month we do adoption meetups inside a pet supply store. Nothing dramatic usually happens. People ask questions, kids point at kittens, someone buys a toy they absolutely do not need. Last Saturday I brought Maple, a very pretty orange cat who looks calm for about 30 seconds and then turns into a furry smoke alarm if a stranger grabs her. I always tell people she needs a slow introduction and should not be picked up unless I hand her over first. This dad came in with his daughter, maybe 8 or 9, and immediately started talking like Maple was already theirs. Not asking, just narrating. "You want the orange one, right? We'll take her." I gave him the usual info about the application, home check, and that Maple was still listed as meet and greet only because she startles easily. He smiled in that way people do right before they ignore every word you said. While I was answering another question, he unlatched her crate and lifted her out to see if she likes cuddles. Maple freaked out, clawed his hoodie, launched herself onto a display of cat beds, and knocked over a whole rack of tiny sweaters. His daughter started crying, which I did feel bad about, but then the dad pointed at me and said I had set them up by bringing an aggressive cat to a family event. He demanded the rescue waive the application so he could prove he was a good home and calm his daughter down. When our coordinator said absolutely not, he asked for a refund on the bag of treats he had just bought because Maple had basically been promised. The store cashier just stared at him like her soul had left her body. TIFU by not wondering why I only got ear infections from pools and was losing my hearing. So 4 years ago I started swimming for exercise to lose weight. If you're at 120 kilograms it's a good way to start BTW, almost the most gentle exercise there is, and just floating to keep warm burns a considerable amount of calories. About a month and I started getting swelled ear canals after swimming, like an ear infection starting in one ear and then developing in the other. Treated it with over-the-counter ear spray and I looked stuff up and concluded earbuds in combination with swimmer's ear must be the culprits. So I switched to headphones and silicone ear plugs with my swimming kit. Lost 30 kilograms in about a year and dropped swimming since it was more fun lifting weights and I could finally run and hike, which was way more fun. So I didn't touch a pool since and stopped using the ear plugs. But when I dropped my head underwater I could hear a crackling noise. Just thought it was a side effect from the constant ear infections and thought nothing of it since I didn't get them anymore anyway and I can live with that. Last month I went swimming again with a friend and got the ear infections again. Spray, pray, and it went away. I stopped using cotton swabs 2 years ago since it fell apart in my ear and I panicked trying to get it out and was luckily successful. I switched to ear wax remover and a rubber squeeze ball to rinse. So yesterday I was cleaning my ears when I out of nowhere coughed. Instead of the ball hitting my eardrum, it just bounced. So I did palpitations and just felt a hard wall. One doctor's visit later, I have 4 brown, almost black pinhead cotton plugs in my hand, 2 for each ear, and my hearing ability has about doubled and been completely regained with no lasting damage. The ear infections came from pool's chlorine soaking into the cotton plugs and causing chemical burns. Don't clean your ears with cotton swabs, aka tips, folk. But it taking me 18 years to discover I have needed glasses since birth and getting diagnosed with ADHD at 26, 4 years to solve a medical problem is pretty / quick TLDR. Started getting ear infections from indoor pools and unnoticeably losing my hearing. Didn't seek help and discovered I had 4 cotton swabs, aka Q-tips, lodged in my ear causing chemical burns from the pool chlorine 4 years later. You want me to complete more tasks? Not a problem, boss. This happened a couple years ago. I have a job in entertainment software. The company I work for is pretty large, but the specific team I'm on is pretty small. I am not the team lead. I have worked here for many years and have been offered the position of team lead several times, but keep turning it down because I hate telling people what to do and don't want to go to more meetings. I happen to have a more technical background than the other people on my team, and I developed a reputation as the guy you turn to when you need to solve the really big complicated problems. The project managers know this and assign tasks accordingly. In fact, they pretty much only bother assigning individual tasks to me. The rest of the tasks for my team go in a bucket for my teammates, including the team lead, to assign to themselves as they see fit. I can grab from the bucket too, but it's generally assumed that I'll prioritize the stuff that's assigned to me. There are far more tasks that take a few minutes than ones that take a few days, but most of the ones on the deep end of that scale are mine. This arrangement is the PM's call, it's out of the lead's hands. It's come up a few times that maybe I should be organized differently than the rest of the team for this reason, but I've never really followed up on that because I enjoy my job the way it is just fine. I'm a head down, take care of my shit, mind my own business kind of guy. Task assignment is handled by some janky software. Each task has an expected time to completion, but the minimum time is 1 day. The majority of the tasks in my team's bucket take less than an hour for most people. Because of this, the time budget for the tasks in the task bucket is pretty bloated. The time budget for the tasks assigned specifically to me is less bloated, because most of my tasks are large enough to have more than 1 day assigned to them. I still accomplish much more than 1 day of task per day on average, because I'm very good at my job. Everyone just knows to ignore the software's estimate for my team in general. It's more a list of stuff for us to do and less a measure of our productivity. A month and a half before the story takes place, the team lost its lead. I was asked, again, if I wanted to be the lead, which I, again, declined. Another member of the team who I'll call Bill was promoted to the position. Bill is not the most technical guy, which is fine. But he's also kind of insecure about the fact that he has little to say in what I'm working on despite being my lead on paper. I don't really care who the team lead is since most of my assignments come straight from the PMs anyway. In the month after Bill became lead, I completed 20 tasks, which was much more than a month's work according to the task management software. After that, I had a 2-week vacation that I had scheduled almost a year in advance. First thing Monday morning when I got back, Bill called me into a one-on-one. He started off by expressing that the task management software does a bad job of telling us how on schedule we are. I agreed. Then he pulled up a spreadsheet he made where he listed every individual task assigned to our team since he became lead. Which seems redundant, since the task management software already has that, but has had 2 key differences. There was no time listed for each task, and it kept a running tally of the number of tasks completed by each team member at the top. Bill points to the 150 tasks on his own tally, and the 20 on mine. He says he understands I've just gotten back from vacation and have only worked on these tasks for a month compared to his month and a half, but I've got to get those numbers up. I tried to explain that the type of tasks that I get tend to take longer. I even pointed out some of the specific tasks that were assigned to me, and asked if he wanted to help with those if we finished all of the small tasks early. No, he admitted, he wouldn't know where to start with those. But look, he said, he completed 150 days of tasks and the expected time to completion had only gone up, since more tasks had come in. We're not gonna run out of small tasks, especially if I'm not pulling my weight. I need to do at least 3 tasks a day or I'd get put on a PIP. It was at that point that I start actually looking at the tasks that he'd completed. And my first thought is, you've had a month and a half and you've only done 150 of these? These are 5-minute jobs. What's more, the other members of the team are around the 70 to 120 range, but they have more tasks that seem like they'd take a few hours to complete. Even worse, if you list the tasks alphabetically, like the bucket does, you can see that he's taken groups of small ones from the list and skipped any of the larger ones. It's almost like Bill has been grabbing the easiest, fastest tasks from the bucket, and then claiming that means he's more productive. Well, if Bill wants to claim that success is measured in how many tasks like this someone can do, he shouldn't have brought these rookie numbers. So here's where the malicious compliance begins. Immediately after the meeting, I scroll to a random spot in Bill's spreadsheet. There's a bunch of tasks clustered together that I can knock out in the same script file. After burning through those, I jump down the list to knock out another cluster of tasks that I know I can solve in a similar way to the first ones. Next on the list are some that are literally the same thing in different scenarios, which I plow through. I keep making my way down the list, and by EOD, I've done 95 tasks. The next day is similar, but I hit a cluster that are a little more involved, and only managed to finish 65. Still, that's a little better than the 3 per day Bill asked for. Of course, I'd meticulously assigned all of these to myself and marked them done on both Bill's and the task manager's spreadsheets. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I know Bill has a regular meeting with the PMs on Wednesday mornings. I know the PMs do pay attention to the task manager in check-ins, so they probably took note of the fact that I just knocked half a year off the projection in 2 days. I don't know if they asked Bill why he was wasting my time with this stuff. I don't know if they pointed out that, when he asked me to do the same kind of job he did, I did it over 20 times faster than him. All I know is, after that meeting, Bill messaged me to go back to doing things the way I was doing them. A couple days later, the head of the department in charge of our team, aka Bill's boss, sent me a message saying from now on, he'll be my lead instead of Bill, and I'll be doing the same job as before except with more pay and senior in front of my title. So TLDR, I specialize in doing a small number of big tasks. The new lead does a big number of small tasks and claims I'm not pulling my weight. I do more small tasks in 2 days than he did in 6 weeks. I get promoted out from under him. I taught my dog to use talking buttons. What she told me terrified me. My dog, Cookie, is a high-energy papillon mix with big furry ears and tufts of long fur, and when I first adopted her I almost returned her because for the first 3 days she wouldn't stop crying. Now, of course, she is my baby. One thing that helped a lot with her energy levels and her constant boredom was the buttons. I'm sure you've seen them, those buttons you record with your voice that dogs can press to say things like food or play or outside. Some people even train their cats with them. Cookie is up to 20 buttons. Sometimes she'll hit nonsense sequences, of course. And she seems to think OUCH is a reaction to surprise. Also, I'm not sure if she grasps the emotions mad, sad, and love you. Though on days when I'm curled up on my sofa crying from the stress at work and she hits love you, of course I want to believe she knows what it means. Even if she doesn't, it still makes me feel better. But even though she's imperfect in talking with her paws, Cookie is well trained and intentional, at least with her most tangible wants like outside and food. Though I'll admit it's annoying to be woken in the middle of the night with demands for food. Anyway. One night, I was woken up by the sound of my recorded voice from the living room, stranger. This was followed by the pattering of Cookie's little paws, followed by, stranger. Outside. I admit, my heart skipped a beat. I lay in bed huddled under the blankets, reluctant to get up and investigate. For a long while, holding my breath, I lay there in silence. I listened to the dog's footsteps meander around in the main room. Finally, she pressed food a few times before coming back into the bedroom and curling up in her bed by the nightstand. In the morning, I checked around outside the house, but found no traces of anything unusual. I also did a Google search and laughed when I realized how many people have been spooked by their pets pressing stranger. I also creeped myself out with a story in the Daily Mirror of a woman whose dog pressed cold stranger. According to the article, the woman was spooked by her dog's warnings of this cold stranger in the corner of her living room. But in my case, Cookie wasn't warning me of any ghosts. One morning she hit stranger before running to the door and growling. This was a correct usage of the button, as a UPS driver was outside. When the doorbell rang, she actually barked, something she rarely does. Her hackles raised, tail down and ears flat. I had to apologize to the driver as I accepted the package and Cookie kept rumbling, low and deep in her throat. I told her go away and she skulked off. Behind me somewhere, I heard the button for stranger again. Sorry, I told the driver, who was laughing. She doesn't like strange men. She sounds smart, then. Do those buttons actually work? He was intrigued. Outside. Yeah, she seems to know them pretty well, so. Food. Mad. Sometimes she presses them kinda randomly, too, I admitted. Okay, well, she sounds mad and like she wants food. Have a good day. I don't know what Cookie's history was before being adopted. But she's always been leery of men. At least until they bribed her with her favorite thing, food. In any case, later that afternoon she pressed stranger again, and when I looked outside, there was a turkey in our front yard. That's when it struck me, the other night, Cookie must have seen a raccoon or some other animal that was a stranger to her. But then came the incident that made me rethink everything. I'd just come back from a visit with my parents, and as soon as Cookie and I walked in, her hackles raised. I was unloading bags when I heard, stranger. Home. This sent a crawl of icy fingers up my spine. Cookie wasn't growling or barking, but she was unusually alert. Stranger where? I asked. When Cookie just looked at me, I repeated myself. She looked around the room, and then she trotted off to wander through the kitchen, came back out and went down the hall to the bedroom. Came back to me and wandered over to the buttons. Smell. God, the chills I felt then. Did this mean there was a lingering smell of some stranger? Could it have been a strange animal? A squirrel that got in through the window, maybe? Or the smell of something I brought in from outside? I went walking around the house. No signs of forced entry, though I do keep a key under a flower pot that anyone with half a brain and determination to break in could probably find. It's a safe neighborhood, so I hadn't thought much of it. Now, though, I removed the key and decided I'd get a lockbox for the front door instead. After I found a footprint in the damp soil below the window, I also decided to install cameras. Cookie, meanwhile, had calmed down, and when I came back inside I found her camped beside the food button. But the real reason I swear by these buttons and how beneficial they can be is because of what happened the next week. I was out doing some gardening and heard my name called by Greg, my supervisor at work. He was out jogging, and we struck up a conversation. He asked if he could have some water and I let him in for a drink, and as usual Cookie was growling, tail tucked and ears back just like with the delivery driver. I told her to go away and she backed off, though wouldn't stop giving Greg the stink eye. He had made himself at home in the armchair by the TV area and was remarking on what a nice place I have and asking, "Is it just you here?" when I heard my recorded voice from the living room, stranger. Smell. Now, the fact Greg had appeared on my street, casually jogging up the sidewalk, well, it had sent up some red flags. He'd always been a little creepy as a supervisor. Not enough to go to bring a complaint forward or anything, but enough that I felt awkward about seeing him on my street. So when Cookie pressed the button saying she smelled a stranger, it sent my pulse racing. Could this be the same stranger she smelled on the day I found the footprint outside the window? I told Greg I had to take her out for a quick potty break, and while outside I phoned a friend and asked them to pretend it was an emergency. I came back in with my friend shouting loudly enough on my phone for Greg to overhear, and I told him something had come up and I had to run. We both went outside and I locked up and got in my car and waited until he was gone before I went back inside my house. I checked the cameras, wondering if I'd find evidence of him snooping around my house. But there was nothing. I assumed that my fears had been overblown. That maybe I had freaked out at Greg unfairly, and Cookie had pressed those buttons because she didn't like men. But 2 days later, the cameras caught him. On a Saturday afternoon when my car was gone and I was obviously not home, Greg came strolling up my sidewalk. He looked around, seemingly trying to act casual, and then he went right to the potted plant, which he lifted, searching for the key. I felt nauseated watching the footage. And glad I had trusted my gut and Cookie's warnings about the bad vibes I was getting from him. I arranged to have the locks changed and a security system installed, and informed my neighbors to be on the lookout. I did some extra button practice with Cookie to make sure she'd alert me if necessary. When I informed my boss, Greg was immediately let go. He sent me some expletive-filled, threatening emails and messages accusing me of ruining his life, before I blocked him and filed a restraining order. That was all weeks ago. But the reason I'm writing about it now is because yesterday, Cookie hit the stranger button again. Of all buttons, that one always got a reaction from me. I immediately got up and asked her, "Stranger, where?" She turned a circle and whined and then pressed, "Home." That sent my pulse through the roof. I checked all through the house. No signs of intrusion. Nothing on camera either. My fluttering heart slowed. "No stranger," I told her. She sulked and wandered away. She was out of sorts the rest of the evening. Then today, she hit the button again. Mad, she pushed. And then, stranger. Mad. It was nonsensical. I found myself trying to piece together meaning the way so many other owners do when their dogs use buttons in a way that doesn't make sense. Was she calling me a stranger because I haven't given her enough treats or pets lately? As in, don't be a stranger? But I knew that was a huge stretch. Was she saying she was mad because I wasn't listening to her about the stranger? Maybe. But there was no stranger. I checked everywhere, including the cameras. And then, because that button in particular always got me extra freaked out, I looked up Greg. Just to make sure he hadn't resumed stalking me. I went to his socials, where it was clear from his recent posts he still definitely held a grudge. He'd made a bunch of rants blaming me for his life spiraling ever since his job loss. Other posts claimed he had nothing left to live for. But the part that chilled me to the core? I found his obit. He ended his own life 2 days ago. I lied about having a hobby so people wouldn't think I was a loser. Now I'm being pushed into starting a large project. I am 19 years old and I have no life. I live with my girlfriend and her parents because my parents kicked me out at 16. I have to complete high school online and I haven't ever had a job. I am essentially useless. And frankly, I am a loser. I don't have any friends. I just have my girlfriend and her sister to hang out with. I don't really have any hobbies. I only somewhat know how to draw because my mom forced me to learn because she thought I was going to be a prodigy. To be honest, the only reason she thought that was because I added noses to my smiley faces. Even then, I wouldn't say I am great at it. I can draw a person. But my girlfriend seems to think it's my passion. She acts like I'm the best artist ever, although I feel like she's just trying to encourage me. Every so often, she'll ask me to draw something for her or brag that I'm an artist to her family. I play along because, hell, I know how to do it. It's easy to feign passion. I just have to say I've been drawing my whole life and people will think it was on purpose. So I lied. I said it was my dream to create my own cartoon one day. It seemed big enough that I could talk dreamily about it while never making an effort to chase it. Because honestly, what the hell am I gonna do? Go indie, I guess. My girlfriend has been marveled at just how many shows are being made completely independently and she wants me to do the same to chase my dream. I don't know how to write a script. I didn't even have a basic plot prepared because nobody ever asked me to go into detail about the show I wanted to make. But she spent all afternoon looking for resources to get me started. Apparently, there's this whole site for finding voice actors and she wants me to make a post on it tomorrow. I'm panicking, honestly. I don't want to let my girlfriend down. I don't want her efforts to go to waste. But a show? An entire animated show? I can't animate. I didn't have a plot. I don't have characters. I have nothing. I'm probably going to do it anyway, for her. So I don't seem like a loser either. But I don't know what to do. If you enjoyed these stories, hit subscribe for more.